This conference will now be recorded.
All right, folks, welcome to the first meeting of the second quarter. Happy New Year to those of you that celebrated it this past spring. I know there were a few New Year celebrations going on here in the Bay Area, so Happy New Year. We have a couple of agenda items, as you can see from my screen. The first and foremost is Tech Talk series. So we are pretty much set for Tech Talk. If you click on the link in the agenda, which should be part of your invite, but I will also post the agenda here. You will also see that the Tech Talk series have all been scheduled. Most of the project groups have Tech Talks. The only one that does not right now is Telco, and that is for good reason. The Telco team is actually going to plan to do a face-to-face hosted by Flex here in the Bay Area at the end of June. So we're pretty excited about our first face-to-face workshop there. And therefore, they're not having actually a Tech Talk virtual event. Does anyone need any help with the virtual events? I know Kate has already launched registration. I know that all of the project leads, along with the IC members and the sub-project leads and the work streams, are already working on agendas. Each one of the Tech Talks has a working doc that has a link from the doc in the meeting minutes, and so we're getting ready. End of this month, we'll start with the OCP Foundation overview, and then the week after that, roll into server, which is 2 half-day back-to-back events, and then security and rack and power networking, so on and so on. So as you can see, every single day is a half-a-day event. The first day is actually also a half a day. We just changed it. We have so much to cover with all of the new news that's happening with George, and Rebecca is going to also do a update from the summit here, and Cliff is going to do his. The IC members, I've asked DJ, Jessica, and Jeff to do an update on the strategic initiatives, kind of an update on what's been done for last year and the new ones that we have come forward and agreed upon for 2022. Steve's going to do a marketplace update. Bill's going to do a tech update. So we've got a lot to cover on the first day, and then we'll kind of kick off the event and just let folks know about what's going on. So really excited. Tell people to register. It's free and it's virtual, so they can listen to it. And so if anyone needs help, please reach out to myself or reach out to Kate, and we'll get that started. Project lead and sub-project lead elections. Cliff and Bill and the rest of the staff is helping me with some of the criteria for project lead and sub-project lead elections. Historically, we've just called out for nominations from anyone that is available, and we've had some success in that, and we've also had some folks that were just really busy and couldn't commit the time. So we are actually looking to put some structure around the project lead elections and the requirements for project leads. And this is going to be, for just the top level projects, not the sub projects. However, if the sub projects leads are looking to pass the baton on, this would be a good time to do that in terms of onboarding. Upcoming events, I added a section at the bottom here for just some upcoming events that we have going on. And you can see there's some of the educational webinars that Cliff's doing here, as well as some other events that we're going to be present at. in the month. I know that Cliff is doing a keynote at the Intelligent Network Automation Congress in Madrid. George is doing a keynote with Target at ONUG in New Jersey. And we're going to have the ISCA workshop, which I need to change this, right? It's June 19th now. It's a full day workshop in New York City coming up for ODSA, and we've got a great lineup there. DJ and the ODSA team and Wei Fang from Alibaba have been working very, very hard to get the keynotes taken care of, and we've gotten, you know, some papers, as well as a lot of people are just going to be part of the program committee, and they're bringing their own, so which is fantastic. It's going to be a full day workshop. So if you're interested, you can click on the links in the agenda doc again. And of course, as we start to build this out, we're definitely going to be putting in our events on this page, but you can also get to them on the events page from the OCP website under upcoming events. So this is just some events that are happening here. And you can also go to get on the events mailing list if you want, and you can get information from that. Spotlight on a few new projects and sub-projects. We were...
Can I ask a question, general
Sure.
question about the events?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this. This is most helpful. So the general question I have is, how are we also informing the community at large about these events, which are actually happening in some sense outside of OCP, right? This is not like OCP Tech Talk. So a case in point, for instance, is if you go to the event table.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Sorry. Yep.
Yeah, so for example, for ISCA, we have been very involved with ODSA community itself. So it's happening very closely. But let's say something like intelligent network automation. Somebody from OCP is going to talk about it at an event, and how closely is the networking team or the management or software community aware of what is being talked about, what are the objectives which we are planning to achieve from OCP perspective? How much of alignment is there, or is this something we usually don't worry about? It's a broad question I have. And same thing with webinars, right? There's a webinar on sustainability if you go up. And I would like to know, has sustainability community being aware of what this webinar is, how it's going to help the OCP sustainability community or the data center sustainability community in terms of increasing the engagement? Because at the end of the day, all of these events should have an objective. And the simple objective I can think of is to continue to increase the health of the OCP community in all forms of shapes. So how much of OCP community plays a role in shaping these events, or are these happening essentially outside of OCP community?
I'm going to defer this events question to our Chief Marketing Officer, Dirk.
Hello.
Hello.
Is Cliff on the phone too?
No, Cliff is running a webinar as we speak, right?
I was going to say he's running one right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, DJ, I know that there's been a lot of questions about this. The projects are not the only places that collaboration happens. You know, at the end of the day, the foundation and our staff and what we focus on is enablers, is enablement. We are the enablers of innovation and conversations and collaboration, right? And so it takes a lot of different forms. The majority of the collaboration that happens in OCP is in the projects, but there are other things that we undertake in order to keep those conversations going. For example, we speak at and host sessions at other industry events, external industry events. We host luncheons, we host breakfast, we host roundtables, birds of a feather sessions. So there's a lot, we've got a lot of things going on where we're trying to drive collaboration and also build the brand and build the relevance in the community. And so this is one of those channels. Anybody in the project is welcome to, in any of the projects, is welcome to suggest a topic for these, to have their company sponsor them, to be a speaker, to contribute to the conversation. They just have to step up and do it. These are things that we have going on. They're on our event schedule. We're readily marketing them. And then it also helps us maintain the financial health of the foundation by generating incremental revenue. Right now, we only have two revenue sources, the summit and membership. We're looking for ways that we can diversify our revenue in order to maintain the health of the community so we can keep doing what we're doing. So I know that this has been a hot button for a lot of people, but, you know, jump in and get involved. As with everything, we are open to anybody getting involved in any conversation. And we are simply the enablers, and this is one of the channels by which we do that.
Right.
So does that answer your question,
DJ? And I think all of the things which you said absolutely make sense. My question was slightly different, which was
okay, sorry.
In some cases, I'm not saying in all cases, in some cases, to what extent community is at least aware of it. That's all.
We publish these. They're on our upcoming events calendar. If you'd like, we could have when we have these IC calls, we could have a status update. Archana, maybe this is something we put on the agenda as we give an update on tech talks, webinars, anything else that we have going on from an event perspective that we need to make sure that they're aware of. But we publish all of this stuff on the website and our upcoming events and things like that. So DJ, maybe that's a first step is Archana. Maybe we make this an agenda item is we just update everybody.
I did, and it's here at the bottom. So that's, I think the point was, how else are we socializing it or to the outside community? And I think the answer to that, DJ, is we're putting it on social media. If you're part of the events list, as well as part of the community, we do a blast as far as events are concerned to that, to the entire community. So the entire OCP community is aware, as well as we
sometimes it depends on the focus. Sometimes it's just project groups. Yeah, exactly. We have a different marketing initiative for each effort.
The simple solution I'll make is if there are like pointed topics like sustainability, you can maybe just do exact same thing what you are doing now. Go to that call and tell them, hey, this is a webinar which is happening, FYI only. And if they need to take some action, they can take it. Otherwise, they can say, okay, great. That's my simple request.
Okay, I think that's a fair request. Archana, did I answer the question, do you think? Okay, or do you have anything you want to add to that? Or do you disagree with anything I said?
No, I don't disagree with anything that you said. I think you answered the question. DJ, do you feel like your question was addressed?
Yeah, absolutely. So, specifically like the intelligent automation, I don't know which project it should be FYI. I think that could be a simple example of let's talk about that with the right project team. That's all. That, hey, this is what is happening. And in fact, that team can help even further promotion, right? So it's all good things.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but that's not the intention, just so you guys know, is like we're not sitting around developing webinar topics based on the project paths. Cliff, as market analyst, is looking for opportunities that are relevant conversations that we want to initiate. So now, can they be and should they be where possible? Should they be mapped together? Absolutely, absolutely. And we probably could do a better job, DJ, of communicating these things to make sure that everybody's on the same page and there's no surprises. I'm sure that that's what's been causing consternation, is just people are surprised by it. And that's a fair comment, but I think we need to take.
I'm just suggesting as a FYI, not that anything needs to change. I think
Well, no, I
people
think
are
we can do a better job of communicating to the projects, is what I've heard, because this isn't the first
right,
time that I've had this question.
right,
So,
right.
so
Yeah.
comment received, acknowledged, you're right, and we'll do a better job.
Thank you, Dirk.
Sure.
All right. With that, speaking of conferences attended and events, I know Cliff's not here, but DJ, do you want to give like a little bit of a snapshot of what you saw at OFC, since you and Cliff and others were there? And I know OCP hosted, a luncheon there.
Yeah, I'm happy to give my perspectives.
Okay.
Absolutely. So my main goal when I visited OFC was as IC has voted for co-packaged optics as one of the key strategic initiatives. One of the first things I wanted to do was actually talk to the community members on the optics side, and they are all at OFC, not in OCP. So specifically, I wanted to go and talk to folks in OIF, and OFC had a OIF booth where they had a demo of 51.2 tera switch with the module, co-packaged optics module on it. And it was, of course, a mechanical mock-up, but looking at it, you kind of can get a lot of ideas. So the detailed discussion which I had with OIF members was, where exactly can OCP contribute? We do not want to reinvent, or we do not want to recreate a community, meaning we don't want to do something which is already being done somewhere else very effectively. In those situations, we should go there and participate instead of trying to do something new inside OCP. So that's the general thought process. So the discussion was, if we have a 51.2T switch with this big co-packaged optics based module, where could OCP play a role, and where does OIF play a role, and make sure that we don't kind of do the same thing. So the feedback I got from multiple people from OIF team is like, they welcome OCP involvement. They were very excited. The nomenclature wise, when we say co-packaged optics or CPO, that refers to the specific module, which is very tiny module, relatively speaking, which has only optics component and electronics component. I think I showed that in one of the calls before using the web page. So there are 16 of these modules around, and then there is a mezzanine card on which everything sits, including the switch itself. And right now, there is no ownership of the mezzanine card in terms of standardization. So two companies can come up with a completely different version of a mezzanine card, including the distance between the connector, the thermal envelope, the connector pin layout, etc. And that impacts the baseboard design. So just like for OAI, and CMAC actually knows this better than anybody, you have something called universal baseboard, UBB. Similarly, for networking switch, let's call it networking baseboard for lack of better word. So there is a board called NBB, and this module would sit on it, and we can standardize this module. Not the co-packaged optics module, which is a different, meaning to the OIF community. I keep using co-packaged optics as a phrase, but I asked Cliff to come up with a better word, because that's not the right language to use. It can cause confusion. But the idea here is, can we standardize the mezzanine card with the connector type and the layout of the connector and the thermal envelope and the heat sink and all of that? And the answer is absolutely yes. So I was very happy to hear that because I wanted to validate that with a completely independent perspective. So that was one goal I wanted to accomplish. And also I wanted to learn about this particular space. And OFC is better than any place to learn about what's happening on the networking side. The second piece, which was very interesting, was that there were discussions about optical chiplets for connectivity, and these are related to even cases of GPU memory. I think NVIDIA had a paper on GPU memory connections using optics. Intel had a presentation on the same. So that's a very exciting space because ODSA is a chiplet-based standardization activity within OCP. And we right now don't tackle the optical chiplets, but that is absolutely logically, something which ODSA can tackle. We just don't have resources, and in fact, we don't have the right people to drive it. So that's the only reason. So that's the second area where I see an immediate possibility of OCP taking this white space and defining some of that. And then the third area where something of interest happened was OCP organized a luncheon where Andy Bechtolsheim was there. This was organized by Cliff and Dirk, and they did an excellent job of bringing a like all the thought leaders from OFC into one closed room. And then it was 1 hour of intense discussion moderated by Cliff. And the idea was to discuss, first to promote OCP among OFC participants. Many of them did not know much about OCP. So that was good. And then there were folks like Google, Microsoft, and others, along with analysts, Wall Street Journal analysts and others. And the discussion was all about where optics is going in general, where the technologies are evolving. There were companies like Avecina, which is doing extremely low power, short reach, high bandwidth connectivity using LED, which is as cheap as you can get for connectivity. So that's an excellent thing because for 10 meters and less, something like this can be a game changer for connectivity within rack. So there are these companies which are already doing a lot of work. They have keen interest in getting involved in OCP because many of these technologies apply at a system level, at a rack level, even though these are component-driven technologies, but the use cases are driven by how are we interconnecting a rack, how are we disaggregating memory. So there was a massive interest among everyone to see, hey, can we come and do some presentation at OCP? Andy did an excellent job of bringing this interest up to a very heightened level. So the net of this is that at OCP Global Summit in 2022 in October, we will be having an optics track. Details are not finalized. I'm encouraging all of us to work with OIF because again, we should not disenfranchise any community. So if we are doing an optics track, we should bring experts who are in optics to help us curate the track. And some of them are in OIF. So we are working on that. And then in that same lunch, we also announced a possibility of doing some kind of comparison on the power basis to promote technologies on optics. We haven't finalized the details yet, so I will withhold information there because I think it's fast changing and it could completely go in a different direction. So no need to whiplash all of you with details which may not even come to pass. So those are the general observations I have from OFC. Happy to answer any question, and I know Dirk also attended the event, so happy to answer questions if any quick ones any of you have.
A high-level comment, perhaps. As you suggested, there are a lot of underlying technologies that are being discussed, either at OFC or elsewhere. At OCP, basically, we are system-level people, put things together and integrate them well. And as you suggested, system-level things and gaps that we identify, they're not addressed elsewhere. It's good for us to articulate and cover the white spaces, as you said. Particular underlying technology probably is not as important to system levels as the ingredients that go around to integrate them, basically. And as you said, we cannot duplicate other other consortia's effort. That was
Right.
a great summary. Thanks, DJ.
Yeah, and I think that's where we want to be very respectful, more than anything, of other communities, because they have been doing it a lot longer than, in many cases, the entire existence of OCP, right? So we want to be extremely respectful of everybody in those areas who have done amazing job, and then find a collaborative way to bring some of the things which nobody is looking at today into OCP, and then everybody will participate. So I think it's very exciting because things are moving in so many ways and not everybody can track everything.
Right.
So
The major contribution, in my opinion, that we as OCP community can provide to those consortia is the system level view, use cases. Let's say OCP provides a very wonderful place for people to get together from different walks of life and talk and discuss. And we can articulate use cases of import and then drive it back to those consortia for them to implement.
100%. And in fact, that's something we should absolutely do on a regular basis. For example, CMEC, you can be a great speaker for representing OCP on all the things which we are doing on modularity, because you have driven a lot of modularity, fundamental concepts within OCP. So somebody like you should go to OFC and give a talk on, hey, this is what is happening. And by the way, this is where we need help. We have no idea how to connect these things together. These are our requirements, but perhaps optical folks here can help us solve it. And then everybody after the talk will come and talk to you and say, ask you 20 questions. And then you say, come over to OCP and we can talk more. So just as a thought.
And of course, somebody like that person, like me, could do that good job once we get together, the IC community here, provide feedback, input, and have collaboration on those kind of topics. Once we get to a very good good point of discussing it outside, then of course we should have those presentations from OCP side.
Right. And corollary to that, I would encourage Foundation to consider bringing OIF booth into Global Summit at OCP, and not just OIF, but use that same behavior to, can we get a Linux Foundation booth into OCP Global Summit, because there are software pieces which are done in Linux Foundation. Now I'm broadening the conversation, of course. And same thing, there's an organization called Open Dev Infra, which is ex-OpenStack, where they do all the software stuff. So, and they could be doing security stuff, which I know Andres is working on from Google within OCP. So there are a lot of these things which are existing, and we can kind of, so all of us can do the exact same behavior in different areas: optics, security, hardware, software management, things like that.
Thanks, DJ. Appreciate it. I think that there is a lot of things happening, and I know Dirk's got his pulse on a lot of different events, as well as Cliff is bringing some new events to us, and we're participating in Linux Foundation events and ONUG events and other events. So I think that if you guys hear about anything as a whole, please let us know. We can put it on our calendar, and certainly we can talk to the organizers there and make that happen. If you are speaking at an event, please also let us know, because so often you also speak at events and we always find out about it through social media later. So we would like to echo that, especially if you are referring to OCP in any fashion in your speech. So things like that, I think, create awareness, also create a lot closer collaboration with other organizations. And I know that, some of you definitely let me know, hey, we're going to attend ASHRAE, we're going to be talking about this, or I'm going to, this storage event, and I'm going to be talking about this. But if there's events out there that OCP is not, promoting or aware of, I'm going to heavily lean on the IC here and the project leads and the sub-project leads to let us know as well. Okay. So collaboration like, what you just talked about, DJ, would really work. I mean, last year, the year before, we weren't at OFC, and here we are, right, hosting a luncheon. So these are the kind of things that we're starting to do more of, and look to your help in making that happen. Okay, switching gears, the next item was actually for the IC here, DJ, Jessica, and Jeff. I know I had put some items on the agenda on the next steps of our strategic initiative. I know we spent the better part of, January and February kind of collecting all of the inputs for strategic initiatives. We also trickled up and voted, and out of that, the top 3 that came up, as you mentioned, were the community lab, the concept of packaged optics or optical chiplets. I don't know if we want to call them co-packaged optics, but maybe a better name for that. And then the third one was, just edge in the data center. What are we doing on the edge, right? I think, Jessica, that was yours. So the third one is being addressed in various different, projects already. Data center facilities looking at it. Telco and Edge obviously is looking at it. Networking under their enterprise connectivity group is looking at it. Cooling environments is also looking at it. So I think we have that covered somewhat, unless I'm mistaken in some way, and we want to do more. But the other 2, maybe you guys can give the IC an update.
Yeah, I can quickly go through the first 2, and then I'll let Jessica chime in with the edge. So I already mentioned about what we are trying to do on the co-packaged optics side. First order of business is we need to build the right group of people to lead that work. OCP does not have the right skill on the optics side, so that's the goal we are trying to do, is build a community, and then bringing the OCP optics track at the summit is going to be a big step up towards that direction. So that's the work which is foundational, which is happening right now. And we have a very clear line of sight in terms of what we want to accomplish. What we don't know is how. And that's the part we are kind of tinkering, and we are moving deliberately. We don't want to rush through, because it can cause some unintended consequences, which then can increase the churn. So that's part 1. Part 2, on the OCP lab, actually there's a lot of activity happening there, where now the gear is being shipped to the site at Yahoo Japan in Washington State, somewhere outside of Seattle. So multiple folks are involved, and the question which we have to ask ourselves is, how are we going to run the lab? And that's something which will happen within few months once the equipment is all up and running. And I would love to hear answer from all of you. I know I have suggested that I strongly feel foundation should be the one running the lab in some sense, or administrating the lab, because it should be neutral space, as neutral as we can imagine, because then it can go in the direction where majority community wants, rather than one individual or one company, which also has a space. But this lab serves a very fluid purpose of, big company, small company, all able to influence the direction or even participate in some cross-functional work. So I think that part is, I know Rajiv is not on the call, but Rajiv is leading that effort, and that, I think, should get to the right place in 3 months once we have everything shipped and up and running. So it's already kind of underway. The point I'm making about OCP lab is it's already underway. The area where we probably start needing help is, how are we going to administer the lab? How are we going to run it? How are we going to get people to participate? I don't have clarity on that, and would love to hear from others here on how it should be done. But that's where we are with those 2. And then I'll hand it off to Jessica.
Thanks, DJ. Yeah, so for the edge infrastructure topic, as Archana was saying, there's a lot of work that is going on in different projects right now. and still looking into if there's anything that we need to do in order to harmonize those projects or create something around basically having an umbrella where these projects can come under. So we're still looking into that potential option. Anyway, it's not that we don't do anything in the space already. The question is if we need to create, as I said, basically an umbrella around it. But that's basically where we are right now.
Okay, so given that we have made such great progress, and I know you guys are going to be doing an update of this at the Tech Talk series, but I also feel that maybe a blog or something of that sort we should consider doing to inform the broader community and, you know, everyone else out there on social media that this is something that we should, you know, look at more carefully. And if people want to get involved, more companies want to get involved, I think that that's probably a good place to start. What are, you know, what do you guys think about that? Should we do a blog and kind of get more people involved, maybe more companies involved? Thoughts there?
Perhaps even ahead of blog, capturing all the essential elements of what we believe are necessary amongst ourselves. So people's brains have been kind of transposed into paper. Well, a good start. So that might be a small white paper or an article. And if we choose to turn it into a blog or not, that might come later.
Great idea. Jessica, Jeff, DJ, do you guys want to do a white paper or an article on this?
Yeah, I would like Jessica chime in, and then happy to chime in after that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea to do some kind of informational document on there. I think it's also a good idea to do something at the Tech Talk series on the kickoff day. So for the Tech Talk series, there'll probably be some people that perhaps aren't involved in the strategic initiatives of the past. So, you know, maybe if I think about it in 3 sections, that, you know, a 10-minute presentation would be what are strategic initiatives and how do they get determined, right? And we could talk about that. What were the previous ones and what was accomplished, and what are the new ones going forward? So I think that would be a good, you know, rough outline of a 10-minute presentation for the Tech Talks, and maybe also for this informational document, kind of those 3 items.
Yeah,
I don't think people realize how strategic initiatives outside of us get decided upon.
No, and it's a lot of education, right? I think that is needed regarding that. I totally agree that the more education that we can do in the same way as we did at the Global Summit of talking about, you know, we just need to kind of repeat and do this over and over again, right? To basically educate as new people are coming into OCP as well, right? So yeah, I think that that's a great idea. Continue to do updates, right, at Tech Talks and Global Summits, and inform of what's really going on, and also how people can get involved, right, in the different strategic topics. Yeah, I do like writing up a white paper regarding the ideas and aligning, right? It would be maybe we can use, right, of coming into the IC first and going through the white paper as well as what will be shared at the tech talks.
Right. So I agree with all the statements made. And last year we published a blog, so for sure we should continue doing that. I think I'll keep harping on the same topic. The main challenge we have is that we do a great job generally in writing papers and blogs, but somehow getting people to become aware of those things is a different issue. I don't know where the disconnect happens. For instance, we have talked about how the strategic initiatives get determined, even last year, right? And I still see that people have disconnect in terms of not knowing how it's done. Jessica, myself, we talked about this at at OCP Global Summit last year as well. And again, people have lack of understanding on what is happening here. So I don't know where that disconnect happens from, but we can continue doing all of.
Sorry, DJ, to interrupt, but I think you're correct in that a lot of times we talk about things, but people don't hear it or they don't know where to go. But as any other formulation or organization we've done, you guys are doing it. If your thoughts go on the paper and creating a website somewhere, wiki or such, and create all of these links in there, from then on things are easy. Anybody ask anything, you say, go to OCP/initiative/whatever, and that's where you are. And every one of us, all we need to say is that link, and people can follow. Will that not work?
I think it will work better than what we have today. So, yep, CMAC. Those are the things we need to make sure are in place as well.
Yeah, and I think the more you guys socialize it, within the community as well. So on a project call, on a monthly project call, if it impacts your project calls, I think these are the kind of things that the community also needs to hear, right, from the project leadership. So as you
what I would suggest, Archana, all of us actually are project, in fact, except for me, Jeff, and Jessica, everybody is representing a project. So everyone here should take ownership of doing that. It should not be just me, Jessica, and Jeff. In fact, all of you leading a specific project work stream are better equipped in promoting this. So my suggestion is ask all of us for the content and just go and present it to your respective communities and get them involved.
DJ, just as an example to reflect what I was saying earlier. So the moment that you said, you project leads take this, and somebody like me as a kind of IC lead would say, hey, give me the link, I will go drive it. So
yeah, that's what I just said, CMX. We need to collectively create the content. That's exactly right. And then distribute it to everyone here. And then the promotion part happens through multi-prong approach.
Right.
Cool. So we do have a strategic initiatives page, but it's very bland. So maybe I'll come to some of you guys for some copy content there, and we can beef it up and kind of talk about how they're generated. And I'll take a lot of information from the previous blog that was published, DJ, and I'll add it in here, as well as I'll add more information, okay? So that we can refer.
Yeah, actually there's a deck available which everybody can access. We should distribute it to everyone on the call here. The deck talks about how strategic initiatives came about and how they are decided. So the process and the mechanics has already been kind of captured in slides. We should distribute it to all of them. So can you do that? The deck was presented, and that way everyone already has 50% of the content, and the remaining 50% will be what are the 2022 initiative details.
Okay, I'll do that.
DJ, as perhaps a point of feedback, in addition to communication and promotion, what I notice within strategic initiative topics is participation and basically man months, man hours, man efforts. We're probably stretching thin on a number of different topics and initiatives. And even when we ask for participation or leadership for certain areas, people are busy. So that might be another reason that some of these things we cannot drive very well.
Correct. Agreed.
Okay. All right. Moving on. I know we've got 10 minutes left, and Siamak, I was going to give it to you to talk about the IC contribution process update, but something tells me 10 minutes are not enough. So what I'd like to do is invite the IC to our process call, and it's on Wednesdays, and it's it should be on your calendar. And if it's not, please let me know and I can add you to the calendar. But there's a small group of us that meets every week at 2 o'clock Pacific. And the name of the call series is called IC Process for Contributions, and it's an open discussion. And we talk about the contribution process flow because we've been given feedback from the community that our process is very complicated. And believe it or not, we've been meeting for, what, 3 months now, and we still don't have the process ironed out. So that's pretty much how complicated our process is. And if we're having a hard time amongst just a small group, you know, agreeing on the different types of contributions and the different processes that we follow for contributions, then I can't imagine a brand new company coming in and trying to follow that as well.
No, Archana, if I may.
Sure.
The point is not per se that we don't agree. It's just we recognize as new IC members join, we recognize there are different methods that contributions happen. And what we've been trying to do is to organize that and try to come up with a formulation that covers all aspects of different methodologies and different ways that people contribute. And that has gotten a little bit complex. We're trying to basically come up with flowcharts and procedures and such to streamline all of that. We probably are at a point to say that we are maybe have a solution gelled out, but to make it solid, we could benefit from other people's contribution. Hopefully, we don't go out and create more diverse methodologies, but if the same methodology we have created is sufficient to cover all aspects of the things that different projects normally do, that will be great. I don't know if Archana, if you feel appropriate, we can send a link to people to start adding comments as well.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I just think that we're not quite ready to distribute that just yet, right? I think we need to gel it down a little bit, and then I think we can. But I'm happy to provide the link here.
We were hoping that today would be, we would have at least half an hour to discuss it and bring it to the entire IC committee, so that later during our workshops, I mean the work meetings, people could come in with feedback. But since we didn't have that chance today, maybe we can have that presentation on this coming Wednesday, that people can come in and listen to that and provide feedback.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I did put the link in here in the agenda. So you can click onto the IC contribution process and click into it, and you can kind of see, the IC members can see what we've been working on. But yes, I highly encourage everyone to attend the call series on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific if you are able to. All right, we've got about 6 minutes left. Steve just wanted to do a quick overview of the marketplace and give you a stat. Steve, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm on. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to beam the presentation that you had given me?
Yeah.
All right, give me 1 second to pull it up. And
This is just 2 slides, so I'm quite certain I won't take the full 6.
Okay.
Just for everybody on the call, the marketplace has been pretty much the same layout since 2018. So we're getting ready to do a refresh in Q2 on the layout and the categories to better align with workloads rather than the way it's laid out today. So we're hoping that will increase. All right, here it is on Q1. We're down quarter over quarter. Across, you see the 3 categories: products, integrated solutions, and sustainability solutions.
I'm still happy with the 7,800 visits per month. The click-through rate remains about the same across the entire marketplace of around 1.6. That is, if I'm on a product, I click through to the solution provider or the member's website. It's a bit higher on the products compared to the integrated solutions. That has dropped a bit since last year. So again, this is the way that we're looking at it now. These three categories are going to change most likely end of Q2. All right, next.
So quick question here.
Go ahead.
What's the meaning? What in context is this a good performance for this metric, click through? Because I really don't know, right? And but is 2% good, outstanding, poor? Like what are industry targets for click through?
Industry varies depending on the company. Some SPs are getting as high as 4 to 15% click through. Others are getting less than 1%. I track based on any.
Our target?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Steve.
What is OCP's target?
Yeah, I was going to say, Steve, you want me to chime in here on that?
Dirk.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so to answer your question about industry standard, these are tremendously high click-through figures. Average click-through rate for traditional advertising, marketing, websites, those types of things is an average is 0.03 to 0.08% is average.
Okay, that's
So,
congrats.
the click-through rate that we
Like-
are experiencing now, admittedly, it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison. So let's not brag too much because it's a captive audience. It's somebody who's already on our website. They're shopping around, and then, but it is a very, very high metric, even if you sort of discount it with that statement. So we are, people who come to the marketplace are behaving in a very positive way, and they're clicking and they're going through and they're digging in deeper. So I would call this, from a marketing perspective, these are great click-through numbers.
Excellent. Thank you.
And some feedback from the SPs. We're usually number 2 or 3 on the sources of traffic to the SP site. So number 1 might be organic search or paid search, but then we're right there on number 2 or 3. And we're usually people that come from OCP are staying on their site longer than if they come from other sites. Next slide. All right, top 10.
Steve, I have one question on the previous slide.
Yeah.
So usually they also, I've seen a metric where they say, how did they come to this site? So do we have any data on that? Is it through the Google search they come here, or how do they land at the OCP website when we say 7,803 visits per month? What's the path to OCP website?
Dirk, I'm talking about the people that are just on the page views hitting our site. Dirk would know the traffic inbound to the overall market, to the overall website. Dirk, you know how people are getting here?
Mostly organic. We have virtually no paid or deliberate outgoing advertising or marketing activities in order to drive people to the website, other than just good general SEO strategies and content development and thought leadership and things like that. So we actually get picked up pretty decently by Google, but we don't have any specific active efforts in order to drive traffic. Now, that being said, I did make a note to myself that as we come out of COVID, as we start to get into more of a healthy situation and we can start investing in marketing, Steve, that's something I wanted to talk to you about, is if we wanted to start doing that, if we wanted to start going after search engine strategies in order to deliberately drive outside traffic to the website, we can absolutely do that. And it wouldn't be a ton of money, quite frankly.
Yeah,
so I've been thinking about that, but right now we're still in conservative mode as it relates to marketing investments and just overall expenses as it relates to the foundation, just because George has given us the direction, and rightly so, I believe, is we still want to be conservative. We're in a really good position, but there's a war looming in Russia and the Ukraine, and there's potential economic instability happening with the stock market and everything, and so we don't want to go great guns too quickly. So we're going to continue to maintain a conservative attitude from an investment standpoint. But when we start coming out of it, it's something that I've got kind of at the top of my list, is to start driving outbound traffic and, you know, start attracting people who are looking for what we have to offer.
Yeah, we got some catch up to do on the website before I want to start driving people to it, including the product sets that are available. All right.
Exactly. Yeah, we have. Yeah, exactly.
Next slide.
Folks. Yeah, I was going to say we got to wrap this up. We've got another meeting starting.
You guys can take a look at this later. It's the top 10 products and integrated solutions. The most notable thing here, no networking products on the top 10 products. There are networking, say 3 to 4 or 5 out of the integrated solutions are all networking. The other highlight to me is Nokia continues to dominate. Almost everything they put up gets a ton of views. That's it. I'm done.
Thank you. All right, folks, as you can see that we are starting to get more and more people joining us for the contribution portion of our agenda. So I'm going to go ahead and beam that. We've got a few white papers that are that people are going to be presenting today, and